Comp structures with startups. Usually you'll tend to see lower salaries, in equity in order to, make up the difference, and that's the reward that everyone's working, toward with the startup. But what about bootstrap startups where you can actually start to drive profitability? Well, we did a couple of things that we thought were interesting that I thought I'd share. And one of those is, so I've already mentioned, I'll put it on the board again, but HSA funding. So putting money into an HSA so that folks are walking away with that money if they're healthy, if they are able to stay healthy, then, and are lucky enough to have that, then that money is theirs. So that's one. The second is that rather than use a 401k and matching, we were actually a little bit more parochial about it in the sense that we used a SEP IRA and we actually did a 10% contribution. So what does this mean? This means that every employee gets 10% of their W-2 wages deposited directly into an IRA account that they control. And that's their money the moment it hits. Why do that? Well, that became, in terms of our offer letters and things, we would point to that as like, hey, that's compensation. That's part of your on-target earnings. We're giving you this slug of money for your retirement. And at the same time, it's tax-free. So it's another way of kind of tax advantaging compensation. And kind of, I don't know, I guess I will say it is what it is. It's forced retirement savings. But it does free people from the mental burden of thinking about it. They don't have to contribute any further. If 10% is where they want to be, that's actually higher than most Americans by a pretty substantial margin. So at least at a baseline, they have a decent retirement savings in place. You do have to couple with this a little bit of education around, okay, it's an IRA, so actually you can invest it in whatever you want. If you open a SEP IRA, say at Fidelity or Schwab, then you can invest in pretty much anything. So there might be a little bit of financial education that needs to be associated with that. I don't look at that as a bad thing, though. Actually, that's a benefit from an employee perspective. And the other nice thing is that flexibility, that they can invest it as they see fit. So a lot of employees value that as well. Then the last thing I'll put up here that we did probably a little bit different is our bonuses. And so our bonus range was actually quite large. It's between 0 and 6 months of salary in many cases. So 0 and 6 months of salary with 3 months being on target. So if the company performs and the employee performs on target, they actually get a year-end bonus or, depending on the timing of the early in the next year, of 3 months of their salary. Why do that? Well, it enables us to construct a situation in which we can kind of keep base salaries under control with a substantial bonus target, making work more performance-oriented. If the company doesn't perform, you can dial back and you reduce your exposure. The company does perform and the employee does perform, you can push it as high as 50%, 6 months of salary being 50%. So that feels really good. And so particularly for startups that are trying to get to cash flow positive and to be profitable, this is a way to control expense while in that best case scenario be able to really compensate folks well for what they've done. And then these other components are ways of providing a lot of tax-free compensation to folks, that lowers their tax burden, and everybody feels better about that. And so these are some different things. I haven't heard of a lot of startups taking these approaches, so I'd encourage you to think about them, particularly for those of you who are bootstrap founders. These are ways you can differentiate yourself as well.